isolated for 14 days there.
No, never been, but it sounds good.
It is.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Dan?
All right. I actually finally put the darn meeting on my Outlook calendar so I can remember to join you when I don't have a conflict.
Hi, Dan.
They're kind of in the news. So my company's making the test kits that are used for this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. It's a really big deal.
So have you started delivering? Have you started delivering yet?
Oh, I'm sure they have. We've got some kind of an internal communique about where the kits are going and what things we should tell to our customers.
Yeah.
But we're telling customers don't try to warehouse the damn things. Don't just. And I think our sales reps are even being told they're supposed to make sure the customers have the capability to run the kits in like the quantity that they order, so that we don't run short because somebody's hogging them.
Right. Now, are these PCR kits or are they the point?
Yeah, they're qPCR. They're PCR.
Yeah.
But I've been working at home. This is my second week working at home. They told us don't come back until early April. So, I can still get the same stuff done. I'm usually in front of a computer or WebExes or teleconferences anyway.
All right.
You're on the front line, huh, Brian?
Well, I will be unless they call early, I'll be in 2 months.
Okay.
2.5 months. But if they can call us at any time, we're under contract.
Yeah, I heard there.
If they tell us to come, then we have to come.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I've got colleagues and friends in China, and they're telling me that it's starting to lift up a little bit there. And so it kind of jives with what we're getting through popular news.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Phillip, Smithy, Smith, do we have a speaker tonight?
It's happy hour, right?
Yeah, but
No.
Smithy from the Australian IFMR is supposed to be joining us.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Update on what they canceled.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
John's already enjoying happy hour.
That's the nice thing about working at the home office. It's like, all right, folks.
Yeah, for those who just joined,
Classic.
it's a live
You're
vaccine. It's a live vaccine.
I'm definitely behind the.
I'm probably going to have a booster shot or two tonight, too.
I'm sure.
There you go.
Well, I'm
No,
not
that's
sure.
something that nobody's promulgated that yet on Facebook, that's a vaccine. But that might help reverse all the idiots who think that's the cause,
Didn't I post something about it being a vaccine a couple days ago, Linda?
What?
Didn't I post something about that being a vaccine a couple days ago?
About what? Oh, the beer?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many memes flying back and forth anymore. It's not. I'm trying to keep.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
I tell
Dan,
you,
who was that
it does change your perspective when you know somebody that has it. So,
Yeah. Well, our
And,
son was exposed a week ago, so I don't know how that's going to play out.
Dan, who is that behind you?
Hello, John.
I want to introduce friends of mine. One I've never met and one I've traveled to India with 4 times. This is Dan and Colleen Bonadonna. Dan's a biker and his wife rides with him. And after several months of harassing, he's finally here.
did you tell them they were allowed to drink on this meeting? I hope.
We're going to get our drinks now.
It's happy hour, baby.
I think they're only here because there's no place else to go right now.
We ought to introduce our drinks when we do this happy hours, honestly. Mine's called Bud.
You don't have beer?
Corona.
He doesn't have beer. He just has Corona.
Red wine.
You don't have a name for that red wine, John?
I'd have to go get the bottle. It's
Mine
red.
is some
On the place, you ought to name it something, right?
Yeah, red wine.
I guess you own a winery. It just kind of all blends together, huh?
Yeah, let's go with that story.
No pun intended.
Oh, all puns intended.
I'm off the sauce for a little while. We've been celebrating pretty hard there, and
Yeah.
and now I'm kind of feeling under the weather, so it's like maybe I better back off a little bit.
I'm sorry I didn't make your party on Friday night.
No, it's no big deal. We got a toast, and that was as good as it got. So I
So
appreciate
good.
everybody that came, and it's really nice because it's a big thing. It's a big deal.
Here, Jacob.
Hey, check it out. Amanda's lying down on the job.
She's turned sideways.
Hey, everybody.
Oh,
There you go.
All right.
Hey, how about letting Dan introduce himself and his wife? Give him about a couple of minutes.
Yeah, go for it, Dan.
Okay, I'm Dan Hockenberger. This is my wife, Colleen Bonadonna.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
Hockenberger. So,
And your four-legged friend?
You're welcome.
Two of them.
yeah, did you see him?
Let's get this one.
We got this one here.
Yeah, that's the one I saw earlier.
Yeah, this is Sam.
And the other's
He's my lapdog.
Give me Stout. And the other is Stout, like the beer.
Whiskey, come here.
Oh, that's his name. Okay.
Yeah. Got Sam
Okay, my
Adams
dog just left the room.
Somebody
What do you ride, guys?
He rides lots of bikes.
Well, yeah. I pedal them and I use my wrist for when I need relief. But I have a Road Glide, a brand new Road Glide Limited that I just picked up about a month ago when I picked Colleen up from India.
Yeah.
And then I have a Yamaha Super Tenere,
Nice.
which I'll do some gravel riding on. And the Yamaha MT-09.
And which one of you is willing to admit to know John?
Yeah, John and I go way back. So.
My deepest condolences.
Yes.
No, this is not necessary.
Oh, hell it is.
Is Sam a Springer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, they're both Springers.
They are both Springer. Okay.
Yeah,
Is he a big baby?
yeah. You see that?
Yeah.
Don't you let him down. He's a good boy. He has a toy called Lammy, and he and Stout had tug of war earlier and tore it all to pieces.
He looks
What they do.
guilty.
Yeah, he is.
And what part of the world are you two in?
We're in Virginia,
Williamsburg.
Williamsburg area.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I live in Great Bridge in Chesapeake.
Oh, okay.
So we're right down the street from you.
He's just
Yeah.
about, yeah.
You got to go through some tunnels and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Tunnels or the ferry over to Scotland.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah. I
Oh,
like
yeah,
the ferry.
that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a timeshare there at Williamsburg Plantation. Beautiful
Yep.
place.
Yeah, whenever that is.
Here, I'm gonna put Sam down. He's fighting me.
Well, welcome to our little group.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having us.
I'm
We
looking
invite
at your
you
view there. Now, I'm in Bay Area, California, but I'm kind of wondering, looking out your window, what the weather looks like there.
It's a little gray,
Gray, rainy today,
rainy and gray.
but tomorrow will be sunny
Yeah,
and mid 60s.
Okay, so not that really not that different from here. It's high 60s. I was able to be in my T-shirt for a while this afternoon walking the dog. When somebody was asking what you're riding, I was thinking, well, what do you mean what you're parking lately?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, unnecessary to like a 3 out back right now that are parked. And it's like, I got no real good reason to take them someplace. A little strange. Did y'all put fuel stabilizer in for the time they're parked?
What's that? I do.
Preservative, gas preservative.
Mm.
What's
Not a
parking?
bad idea if it's going to
Yeah,
be a
what does
while.
parking mean?
Yeah, I don't know either, but I've had to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, there was a couple good podcasts I listened to recently about the COVID-19 thing. The Cleveland Moto podcast. Those guys are talking a lot. Something kind of about the financial repercussions too. And Dan, when you're talking about your Harley, you're just talking about people who are having to unload their bikes because they can't work or something like that, and that's just like money for kids' groceries and medicine and stuff like that. Probably a good time to shop for a used bike is what these guys were saying. And then the Motorcycles and Misfits podcast out of Santa Cruz, California, they were also talking about it about a week ago.
Sad.
It was interesting to hear the motorcycle-related perspective to it. It's out here in the Bay Area. There's a whole bunch of people like, oh man, it's great to go out riding because the roads are completely empty now. It's like, well, yeah, but they're telling us not to. And so it was a big discussion of that question.
Did you hear about the group of college students down south somewhere that had a coronavirus party?
Oh, yeah.
No, I didn't hear that one.
And one of the students contracted coronavirus.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get sympathetic with that.
Right.
Unreal.
That apparently is a true
Darwin
story.
Award things. Well,
that was
it's like
Florida.
the news today about, yeah.
That was in
About
Kentucky,
the-
John.
What was that?
They say that was in Kentucky.
Kentucky?
Not Florida.
Miami Beach spring break was like that too, but they didn't call it a coronavirus party.
No, they just didn't give a damn.
Right. Youth and, yeah, arrogance.
It's really hard to have sympathy for that. It's really a bad idea.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but they're young, they're invincible, they can't get it.
Right.
They can get it and they can also transmit it to their loved ones.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
well, good
like
news.
we-
Provided the government down there in Guatemala opens the borders back up again, we're going in my mission got rescheduled to mid-April or mid-August.
Good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that. Good.
Should be gone by then.
Well, I will. Yeah, the peaks will all be gone by then. The Guatemala is up to, I think, 24 cases now is all. They're watching it really tight, but they shut down their external airports to everybody and everything fast when they had their first case. So
Yeah, the key is, are you going to be able to get a flight there?
well, Delta sold me a ticket, so we'll see what happens. Well, Delta allowed us to change our tickets. Amanda, did you change yours yet?
Delta took your money.
Well, they already had our money. They actually took the ticket I had for May. They converted it and they gave me a couple $100 e-credit as well on top of the conversion. So, yeah. So far, Emilio and I have done it. I don't know if Amanda changed her tickets yet or not. She's a little tired. I'd like to hear more about her son. He got back from New Zealand in the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah, he's home. We're good. We're safe.
You're all happy, and now you're all quarantined?
Yeah, he wasn't unsafe in New Zealand, but they went to a full, like, no joke, everybody in their houses for 12 hours or for 14 days with police enforced enforcement. Police enforced enforcement.
So he's already been through a 14-day quarantine, or was he in the middle of it when he came home?
No, he missed it. It enacted like 4 hours after he left.
Oh.
Oh, gee.
Yeah,
It's not-
the issue was that I booked his ticket through a third party because I couldn't, through Air New Zealand and United, I couldn't get through to the phones, and so I couldn't make him avoid California on the route, so I booked through a third party so I could book him through Honolulu, and we never got a confirmation number.
Wow.
New Zealand, so I didn't know until he got to the airport whether he was actually booked on the flight. I handle stress pretty well, but not when it's with my kids, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway,
So
he's home. We're good.
So did he come on the flights you expected then?
Yeah, he was booked as I paid for it. They just never, the travel agency never sent me a confirmation number. So it was nerve wracking, but we're good. Now the dog is Velcroed to him. She's having the best week ever.
I wanted to let everybody know that Monday night, my Rotary Club, the Rotary Club of Hampton Roads, held their first Zoom meeting. They, oh, we got to experiment with this. It's supposed to be so good. I seemed like I was the expert because we've been doing this for so long. It was really kind of neat to see some of the reactions from folks who've never done it before.
All of us are the expert in this.
Yeah, really.
And my club is having their first Zoom meeting tonight. I was having trouble talking them into it, and I finally just signed up for an account myself and told them if they like it, they can convert it to the club account. But there wasn't really resistance, but there wasn't. It took a little while to kind of get the buy-in. I think they'll. So tonight's our happy hour meeting. So we'll see how that goes, and then we'll go from there. So I've kind of learned from this group.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened with us. The club our meetings are Friday morning, and they want to do that. But Monday was a kind of a test run to see how everybody liked it.
Colleen, what's the
Zoom
story
is
on your
doing very
trip
well
to
right
Italy?
now in terms of their finances.
Oh yes,
everybody.
Zoom is zooming.
The Dental Association is just having Zoom meetings all the time. Regarding different issues.
Oh, everybody freezed up on me. You still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yep.
We're here.
Yep. The problem with
Dan's frame is locked in. Is there some way to unlock that so that it bounces around to who's speaking?
There is. If you go up to speaker view up in the upper right-hand corner.
Right, yeah, that right-hand corner, the red.
But it's locked in. It doesn't go to anybody else.
Yeah, I can't get mine to change either.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I couldn't get mine.
There must be something that somebody.
I don't see a speaker view or anything.
Oh, I see a whole view here. Let's see.
Okay, guys, here's a tip. If everybody mutes, if you hold your space bar down, you can talk and then just release it and it'll go back to muted.
I don't have a space bar. I'm on my iPad.
all right,
Hey, Colleen, what's the story on your trip to Italy?
Yeah, so I guess it's going to be on hold. I guess we're not having the, Mark Maloney. They haven't officially said it was canceled, but I know that the event at the Coliseum is going to be canceled. So, yeah. It's all right. We got 2 more trips to Italy during the year. But that one I could write off because it was Rotary.
Here's another little trick. Look at Amanda's background. She's taken out her kids in her kitchen and she keeps posting in, like, her background keeps changing.
I'm currently in Great Falls on the Potomac. Are you
Linda, why
jealous?
don't you introduce our guest?
You ready?
Yeah.
Good. Well, we've got Smithy here. He is with IFMR in Australia, was on the planning committee for the Air 2020 ride, but I'm going to let you give him information on that. I'll let him do that. And then Jim Dodmead, actually met him in person back when he was on his trip. He might know a little bit more and can share some stories, but I'm going to turn it over to Smithy.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
Good morning.
You got Dan pegged to Dan's window open wide for everybody or something?
No.
Good morning.
Here, let me do that with. Let's try this.
There we go.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi there. My name's Smithy. I'm the president of the Australian chapter of the International Fellowship of Motorcycling Rotarians. And I've been talking to Linda in the last few weeks about our ride down here in Australia, which was planned for October. But unfortunately, because of the virus, in the last week, we have cancelled the ride now, or should I say cancelled? We've postponed the ride until October 2021. So I know Linda was registered and Jim, and we have quite a few others that were registered from Germany and from America. And we're hoping that they will transfer their bookings to October 2021, because we will have a very good ride down here of around about 17 days from Sydney up to Queensland and then back down to Victoria, crisscrossing our dividing range of mountains. And come down under in a year's time when we've got rid of this virus and we're all back to normal, I hope. Did everyone hear that?
Yes.
Good, good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for letting me come to your meeting this morning. I'll just sit in the background and listen to your chat.
Well, you're absolutely welcome anytime. Now, does everybody have that back to a regular view now? I canceled his spotlight.
I have you as the center.
You have me as well.
You fixed it, right?
I mean,
try.
See how to.
It was in speaker view. Take it out of speaker view.
Try to change the view away from speaker view or exit full screen and see if you can.
Got it.
Okay. All right.
A quick question to Smithy. When in October 2021 will it be?
Well, we really haven't firmed up the dates as yet, but it will be the beginning of October. I think I was looking yesterday. I think it's the first to, let me just go into my diary. It's the first to, yeah, it'll be from the 1st of October until around about the 18th.
Oh, I might be interested in that.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I mean, to cover the cost of the support vehicle and so on, we have a fee of around about $250, or it was this year, 250 Australian dollars, which is about 120 American dollars. And that covers a support vehicle and a few other things like a t-shirt and so on. We try and have UHF on the leader and the sweep, and also the support vehicle. And we propose to cap the number of riders at around about 40. We've done this before in previous years, and 40 is just about too big, if you know what I mean.
I do.
But the Australian riders tend to drop in and drop out. So because we've got vast distances here, a lot of them can't take 17 days off work. So they might come in at a certain town in New South Wales and then drop out at a certain town in Queensland and go home. So we won't see all of the riders together, apart from right in the middle of the ride, when we normally have our annual general meeting. So yeah, it's like that.
Will it be pretty much the same route that you had publicized for this year?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I don't think there'll be any controversies down here about exactly where we go. We had it all planned out with all the motels all listed and all the venues in the evening where we all try and get together for camaraderie and so on. That's the best bit of the ride. It's not only the riding of the motorcycle, but also the camaraderie in the evening, which we find is really good with the internationals and the Australians.
Yeah.
Smithy, I'm
looking through my photos at the moment to try and find you a photograph which I can show you and share on the screen to show you the exact proposed routes. But give me a little minute, I'll find it.
Smithy, did I meet you at one of the conventions?
Is that Roger, is it?
No, it's Jerry. I'm the current
Jerry.
president up here.
Oh, Jerry, yeah.
I'm the
not
current
sure,
president
to
for
be honest.
IFMR North America.
I went to Brisbane in 2003
Okay.
and Sydney in 2014, but haven't been able to go to any others as yet.
Gotcha. I ran the booth in Atlanta and also in Toronto, so I thought maybe I ran into you there.
No, don't think so. No, don't think so. I've met James Dodmead. He came over to Australia for a holiday, and I met him. Hello, James. I met James, and he not his wife, but James, outside the Opera House. We had a cup of. But apart from that, I haven't met Linda and Jim yet.
I've, you know, Bill Ivory over there in West Coast.
Yes, mate. Yeah, he's our vice president on the in Western Australia on the West Coast.
I've ridden with him.
Which is
I've ridden
about
with him over there.
It's about 2,000 miles from me, of course. It's a 7-day trip.
I lived there in 1975, 76 as a Rotary Exchange student. But
Did you really?
But I rode with Bill, I think about 3 years ago when I was down there. I rode with Bill for a couple days.
Yeah, yeah. Bill used to run his own travel agent tour company.
Yep.
And take people around Western Australia on tours on motorcycles, and still does, I might add. And he also goes to Cambodia as well.
Yeah, we had early on when we first formed this club, Bill was one of our speakers. He talked to us about Cambodia.
Yeah, he still runs that Cambodia trip. He's got a contact out there, which she's turned herself into a travel agent, and he's running tours around Cambodia as well. I do apologize. I can't find this silly map of mine.
Maybe it's good if you plan in the convention in Houston 2022. Then you can come over, and you are very welcome.
Sorry, we've got direct flights now to Dallas.
For that convention.
I'm sorry?
Excuse me?
I need a chair for that convention, Ute.
You can talk with my husband. He's a director anyway, right?
Actually, I think Larry will be.
Oh, no, you can't ask him. I'm sorry, you can't ask him because he is the chair of all the host events. So he's pretty busy right now with everything what have to do with that. But we're planning something, of course, for the motorcycles as well. Maybe.
That's 2 years out, right?
It's 2 years. It's 2022. Yes, in Houston.
See if you can find us a good place to meet for dinner one of the evenings, if you would mind do that.
Yeah.
Larry Trippett will be president at that time though. But yeah, that'd be great.
Yes. Yeah. No problem. But I think right now I don't know because they canceled the international convention in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
So, and the thing is now we don't know, they make it on another time,
Roger.
or they switch the year maybe because of that, and then we're not sure what it's happened then. So right now everything it's confused, I think, because of this stupid virus, really.
If I could have your attention just for a moment.
Yes.
I've found my photograph now. If I could share it with you, I'll just show you where our ride, where we propose our ride. Is that okay?
Yes.
Absolutely. Can you share your screen with us? Do you see how to do that? All right.
Here we go.
There you go.
Very good.
So I live in Sydney here.
Mm-hmm.
And we would start the ride in Sydney, and we'd go up the coast. I only have to go 20 kilometers. It's all in kilometers here. We only go 20 kilometers, about 10 miles, 12 miles outside of Sydney to get into the bush. We go up through the bush and we stay overnight in Singleton, and again then go across the mountains and out to Port Macquarie. You can see that there. And then we cross the mountains again. The mountain ranges run up and down the coast like that. Through to Armidale, Tamworth and Armidale, then through to Coffs Harbour, and then through to Glen Innes, and then right the way up to Surfers Paradise, the Gold Coast. We would ride through Surfers Paradise there and show you the high rise, then go inland and go through the mountains again, and then across to Stanthorpe and Tenterthorpe, and then we cross over again to Grafton and Coffs Harbour, and then come back again, and then we crisscross again and crisscross again, and then we start going inland to Mudgee, and then down through Bathurst to Cowra and through to Canberra. That's our nation's capital, Canberra. And then we'll then come down right through our highest mountains, which is only about 1,200 metres. But they are mountains. They do get snow in the winter. And we'll come through down to the coast and then run along the coast down to Phillip Island, where they hold the MotoGP. We'll miss that because there's no accommodation down there during that week. And then we'll come up to Melbourne. So the internationals will hire their bikes in Sydney from the same company that they will drop it off in Melbourne. And if they don't want to drop off in Melbourne, then they can ride back to Sydney. Many of us will be riding back to Sydney, those who live in Queensland and in New South Wales. We'll be riding back from Sydney, so we'll stay over probably in Albury for the night, because it's a two-day ride to Sydney from Melbourne, and a reasonable ride, and then we'll drop off the bikes in Sydney. The problem over here is, I don't know whether you get that over there, I think I've seen you with deer and bears and so on your roads, but here we have a lot of roadkill, a lot of kangaroos crossing the road. They tend to do that early in the morning and early in the evening. So when we ride our bikes, we ride, should I say, from around about 8 o'clock, 8:30, it's safer at that time, and then through to about 3:30, 4 o'clock. So that's vaguely what we do over here. If we ride outside of those times, then really and truthfully, we are tempting fate. There are some roads here that we will ride along on our international ride during the day, and you will see a dead kangaroo every 100 meters for many, many kilometers. And there's not only kangaroos, there's emus, there's wombats, there's snakes, all sorts of things like that. So we tend to ride in the middle of the day. We do roughly around about a big maximum of 400 kilometers a day, which is about 250 miles. And we take it easy. We have coffee stops, we have sightseeing, we have photo stops, we have camaraderie chats, all that sort of stuff during the day on our bikes. And you can imagine some of the Australians here have got some wing-ding, fantastic, ancient, historical vehicles which they ride. It's quite a joke.
Hey,
Is that okay?
I got a question. Camels. Tell them about the camels in Australia.
Yeah, the camels were introduced here by the Afghan immigrants, 150 years ago, because we've only been here 200 years. 150 years ago, and they got loose out in the outback and have tended to breed. Now, we have around about 6,000 of them out in the outback at the moment. And of course, nowadays, people breed them in captivity for camel meat and camel milk, which is sold here in Australia. And on our ride through the eastern half of the country, well, you won't see any camels at all. They're not a danger out here. They're only a danger on the interior part of Australia. And again, they tend to only look for feed early in the morning when it's cooler and late at night when it's cooler. So during the middle of the day, you don't see any at all. How am I doing? All right?
Doing great.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's not a bad photograph, is it? You know, I took it off, but I'll put it back on again just to give you another look. this is, we've got 5 states and 3 territories in Australia, and the territories run around about here is Victoria, down here, and then New South Wales in the middle, and Queensland up at the top, if you know what I mean. Anyone been down under?
Yep, you've been there once.
Been to Melbourne once on business.
Been to Melbourne.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, there's a lot of camaraderie between Melbourne people and Sydney.
I spent most of my time on the West Coast, but I did spend some time in Canberra and Melbourne, and I even spent a day in Brisbane. And then I have one youth exchange daughter who lives. She's a policeman in New South Wales there.
All right.
Yeah, she used to be on the horse team. She actually got to perform at the Queen's Jubilee.
Oh, right. Yeah, good on her. Yeah. Yeah, we still have policemen on horseback here in Sydney. We have a depot for horses here, not far from the Opera House, about 10 kilometres. Yeah, and they're good at crowd control, but they're also good for tourists and so on. They wear their full regalia whilst on horseback. Yeah, very good. Yeah, so if anyone comes down under, of course, we have around about 100 members spread across Australia in all sorts of places, and they would love to see you when you pass through. We had a young German guy who shipped his bike over here. You probably, some of you might be following him. He's on Facebook under Fellows, and he flew into Melbourne, and his bike was shipped into Melbourne, and he rode around South Australia and Melbourne, and lots of our members joined him for those rides. I rode over from Sydney to Adelaide and met up with him there, and rode through to Melbourne, where we had a big farewell for him when he left again. And he then shipped his bike out with himself to South America, and he's in the middle of South America at the moment.
Dieter Schneider.
Riding his bike. I'm sorry?
Dieter Schneider, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Dieter.
I know. Yeah.
He spoke to our club one time
guy.
too.
You wouldn't meet a nicer guy. Spoke English perfectly and so on. In the middle of his life, having a bit of a midlife crisis, wanted to do it, and he's riding around on this 700cc BMW.
Mm-hmm.
He was a speaker for our club a couple months ago.
Yeah, he's not a bad guy, not a bad guy. And
but
no
he's
doubt,
not. But he's not doing it because of a midlife crisis. He's doing it because his son made suicide. This is the reason why he do that.
Yeah, and he just said he wanted to do this. You know, he flew home the other week when his father was very ill.
Yes, but now he's in South America, and he is in quarantine right now, like everybody else.
You know where he is?
Yes, where he is in. No, I have to look. I don't. I think he is in.
Argentina, isn't he?
He's in Argentina.
You sure?
Yeah.
He's in Argentina.
Buenos
Yeah.
Aires.
I remember seeing. Sorry.
Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's got the right place for beaches and so on. So no doubt.
But he's under quarantine. He have to stay inside. He cannot go out. He have to stay inside.
That's the shame of it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we here, we've all hunkered down now. We're spending as much time as we can indoors. We've put a little food aside. I can exist indoors for about a month before I have to go to the shops. I'm very lucky like that. I've got a bit of a freezer. But apart from that, you know, people are very upset that they're having to stay indoors. But we've got over 2,000 now across Australia who are affected by the virus, who are suffering from the virus. And we've had 8 deaths across the nation so far. So we expect to reach our peak in about 3 to 4 weeks' time.
So I have a question because of the ride. how expensive it is to with a motorcycle over the whole time to make this trip when you come from America, for example?
Okay, let me try and mention this to you. I'm basing this on an international ride we had in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
The internationals flew into Sydney and flew out of Sydney. So they hired their bikes in Sydney, dropped them off in Sydney, and we went west, directly west through New South Wales to South Australia, down to Victoria, and so on in a big loop, if you know what I mean. The internationals, the cost for the support vehicle and a T-shirt and a few other things was around about $250 Australian dollars. Then the hire of the bike, depending on what bike, pardon me, that you want, if you want a BMW GS 1200, then the cost would be around about 2,600 Australian dollars. Don't quote me on that. You'd have to look at the site at the moment,
mm-hmm.
and I'll give you that link later on. So $2,600, and that covers insurance and so on. And the hire companies here are pretty good. They have spare helmets. They have all sorts of things. I don't advocate that you do that. I advocate that you get on the plane with your jacket on, with your helmet in your backpack, and with your dragging jeans, support jeans, and also your boots in your suitcase. So and your gloves. So you've got all your own gear with you when you get on the bike. You feel much more comfortable when you've got your own helmet, you know?
Yeah, I know. I did that the last time in the Pyrenees in Europe, you know,
Yeah.
so. Mm.
Yeah, I've done it in the United States as well.
Mm-hmm.
I flew into Miami with all my own gear and hired a bike there from Eagle Rider and rode it up to Chicago and so on, and then down through to Los Angeles. However, we're talking about Australia. So $2,600 for the bike hire,
Mm-hmm.
and then the accommodation, which is motel accommodation, 3 to 4 stars, which is above average, if you know what I mean. It's better than some of the accommodation in India, for instance. However, 3 to 4 stars, and that'll cost you around about another 2,300, 2,500 Australian dollars. So if you add the two together, that's around about 5,300 plus the 250 fee, which covers the support vehicle and a T-shirt and so on, and then your food on top. So you're talking around about around about 5,700 Australian dollars plus your food on top. So halve that, because the value of your dollar is so valuable at the moment that it's around about 50% at the moment. So you say, for instance, 3,000 American dollars for the bike hire, for the accommodation and the fee, and then on top your food and
the flight.
And grog. You know what grog is, don't you?
No.
Grog is alcohol.
Oh, okay.
Beer and alcohol
okay.
in the evening and so on, and throughout the ride and your stay.
And the flight.
And the flight, of course. I forgot the flight.
Mm-hmm.
The flight at the moment, without the virus, it was costing us down in Australia around about 2,300 return, Australian dollars, that is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about 1,200 American dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got 2,500 American dollars plus your flights, plus your food.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it is pretty expensive for internationals, but the guys from Germany, of course, their German mark is the euro's worth a small fortune as well, and that's around about 50% of the Australian dollar. So they have a field day when they come in and quite enjoy themselves down under.
Okay.
So
Smithy, would the flight be into and out of Sydney, or would we fly into Sydney and out of Melbourne?
Depends whether you want to hire your bike in Sydney and drop it off in Melbourne. There's a small fee of about $300 to drop it off in Melbourne. It's the same company. The company's called Round Oz Bike Rentals. I can give you a link later on. but they are very good. They're very reliable for an Australian company, and they have been in touch with us many, many times, and they're very sad this week to hear that we've cancelled our ride. And of course, they've cancelled the internationals who had already booked, and they're staying in touch with the internationals and staying in touch with us. But yeah, you can fly into Sydney, hire in Sydney, and drop it off in Sydney. As I say, I live in Sydney, so when the ride stops in Melbourne, I'll be riding back to Sydney, and anyone can accompany back, and I'll drop you at the bike hire place, and you can drop your bike off there and then fly out of Sydney. If you want to come all this way, it's 21 hours on a plane from the west coast of America. I suggest you come and see a few things before you fly home. It won't cost you that much more money, but you know, if you come into Sydney and have it 3 or 4 days before you pick up the motorcycle and start the ride, and then if you drop it off in Melbourne, then have 3 or 4 days in Melbourne to sightsee around Melbourne before you fly out of Melbourne back to the west coast. There are direct flights from Sydney and Melbourne. Don't worry about it. There's thousands of flights when there's no virus. At the moment, nothing's moving.
Yeah, I've done the trip where you hop over to Queensland, or not Queensland, to Queenstown in New Zealand, and go spend 4 or 5 days there too. It's a nice little inexpensive hop, actually, comparatively, going that whole distance.
What airline was that, Jerry?
I'd have to go spend 2 more weeks across on the other side of the coast over there with the sandbaggers.
What was the date? What was the dates again when you want to do it again? The ride.
We're roughly talking about the 1st to the 17th of October 2021.
Okay, thank you.
Hey Jerry, what airline were you using?
But sorry, John, is that directed to me?
Jerry.
Yeah,
Jerry, what airline were you using?
They were tied to Virgin Australia too.
But what airline?
I flew down Delta last couple times.
Okay.
And
I just looked at Air Canada.
Delta's tied to Virgin Australia, and I've flown them too.
I just looked at Air Canada for
really
this.
nice, and so does Air New Zealand.
Yeah, we're not advocating any one airline. Of course, Qantas is our national airline, but Virgin Australia, Qantas, United, American Airlines, ANP. There's all sorts of airlines that fly into Australia, and they're all offering specials when there's no virus, of course. They're all offering specials, return trips, and it's quite easy to fly from the West Coast, from Dallas, from New York now, direct.
I just looked at Air Canada, and the price, depending on a bunch of variables for this October, would be anywhere from $4,500 to $10,500, but that's business class.
Oh, business class. Oh, sorry. No, I was talking economy class.
I can't do economy that long.
No,
how many hours? How many hours that are?
Roughly, it's around about 21 hours in the air.
Oh my gosh. I thought to Germany it's long, but this is much more longer.
Yeah, well,
John, I can't do that without doing business class.
Yes.
Yeah, look,
Qantas,
we're used to it over here
Australia
because the only way to get out of Australia is 6 hours flying before you meet the first country. So when I go back to see my sister in the United Kingdom, then, I've been back about 17 times I've been here 50 years in Australia, and I was born in London, England, many years ago, too many years ago. And I've been back about 17 times, backwards and forwards to England to see my parents when they were alive. And it takes around about 21 hours. Yeah, you get used to it. You watch films, you chat away to people, you eat as much as you can, what you can,
I know that because I do the same with Germany, every year. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
But hopping on a motorcycle the day you get off an international flight like that is kind of a
No, well, we don't recommend that. We recommend that
Right.
you're going to have some sort of jet lag, and if you can stay for a week in Sydney, then you can choose a motel on the outskirts of Sydney at a cheaper rate than a motel or a hotel in the heart of Sydney. If you stay on the outskirts of Sydney, you can catch the train in. It's very inexpensive. It only takes about 20 minutes to get the train into the centre of Sydney, the harbour, the Opera House that everyone knows, and the Harbour Bridge. And you can take ferry rides around the harbour. You can take bus rides out to the Blue Mountains. But if you're coming on our ride, don't worry taking a bus ride out to the Blue Mountains. You will see heaps of Blue Mountains when we crisscross the mountains on our ride. In 2017, we had a national ride, as I say. We had round about 17 people from overseas. We had a lot from Germany, a lot from America, and they had a ball. They really did. There was one particular lady from Germany. You might know them, Constantine and Sophie from Germany. They came out to Australia, and when we had a coffee shop in the mornings, for instance, there was 35 to 40 people all diving into the coffee shops to get coffee and something to eat around about 11 o'clock in the morning. There'd be Sophie by the side of their hired BMW with their pannier open, drinking white wine and eating smoked salmon with biscuits and so on the side of the road. She wasn't phased at all going into coffee shops. She had it all in her pannier, in a cold box. And we were all amazed at that. She had a ball. She just had a ball.
Typical German,
Isn't that
I would
normally
say.
a BMW feature? You have the espresso machine in the side bag.
I haven't worked that out yet, but we're trying very hard. Nespresso sell this teeny weeny little machine now, and all we need to do is rig it up to the battery system somehow. We're working on it. We're working on it.
I'll do you one better. How about if you have the electricity for the pump, but have a heat exchanger for the steamer connected to the coolant system?
Yeah, good idea. Good idea.
Funny.
But we have, many coffee shops here, too many, in fact, and they're all going broke at the moment. But we have a coffee shop on every street corner. It's unbelievable. Espresso coffee, Not your American coffee, America.
That's not called coffee. That's brown water. I know.
Yeah, yes. That's it. Yeah, I wasn't going to insult you by saying that, but it's you tend to brew your coffee and then leave it there to people to pour out during the day in businesses and so on. Here we tend to have gone the other way. We've gone to the Italian style of espresso. You make one at a time,
Very good.
I think part of the problems, and Ute would know something about this. My boss is French, and he was going to wire his kitchen for 220 when he moved to the U.S. because you just can't make a good cup of coffee on 110 volts. You need 220.
You need a lot of forte power to make a good cup of coffee.
That's right.
You were laughing.
Miami on 110 though.
You were laughing when I came to Texas. I had the same problem because really the culture in German and French and whole Europe with Italy and everything, it's about good coffee. So when I came here and it was so ugly, I'm sorry, the coffee. So the first what we did, it was hard to find. We call it Kaffee Vollautomat. It's a full automatic machine that grind you a fresh cup of coffee. It's very expensive here. It's so much cheaper in Europe, but you cannot, I couldn't bring mine because we have no 220 volt, right? So this is why I had to buy a new one, and it was very expensive, but we have one right now. So every coffee is a fresh cup of coffee.
Yeah, we've got a coffee machine on the bench in the kitchen, It gets a lot of use.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Zyco
for
is the
home
name of the
office, that's
company.
pretty important. Zyco?
Zyco, yeah.
Let's look. Okay. I guess with a power inverter, you could probably use that kind of thing in the States, but without.
Yeah. But our little machine, we grind our 1 cup of beans on the one side and instantly make the espresso coffee on the other side. It's a marvelous machine. I don't know who thought of it, but it's blinking marvelous. It's early morning here. It's 11 o'clock in the morning, 10:56 in the morning here. So I'm quite surprised to see Blair, for instance. I think he's gone, but Blair was drinking a glass of wine there. It must be late in the evening there for you.
Still am. Yeah. No.
I'm a little
Not
bit.
that late. It's only like 8 o'clock.
I have pretty no 7 o'clock in Texas, so pretty much.
Yeah, good on you. Good on you.
Mm-hmm.
And Linda is in Seattle. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Washington State. Yeah.
So, Linda, if you let me know whenever your meetings are, or if I could just sit in and listen, I'd appreciate it, because it's very interesting to see everyone around your country and so on. And I'm sure they'll have other Australians who'd like to do likewise as well.
Smithy, that link that you used to log in tonight, it works every week on Wednesday, and that's 7 p.m. Eastern time. So whatever that is, 10 o'clock your time or whatever, but every Wednesday.
Yeah, great. Well, it's about 19 hours, and this is Thursday morning at 11 o'clock here, of course. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I'll let the other guys know.
It's not quite every Wednesday. It's the first 4 Wednesdays of a month. If there's 5, we don't meet.
Okay. And is it 7 p.m. Eastern time or?
Eastern Standard Time. Yep.
Eastern Standard Time. That's New York time.
That's correct.
New York time.
That's great. Yeah.
They all wake up too early for this California guy. I'm still at the office. I'm looking for where's my booze in the desk drawer? You know, that's good. We're working from home. And thank you, Smithy, for coming on. Hope to get to ride out there someday.
Thank you very much, Smithy. I really enjoyed the presentation.